This is Jen Lasser with Adobe Analytics Product Management. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about some improvements we've made to the Manage Data Sources modal that you see when you interact with any of our visualizations. So in the past, our modal here has listed out quite a few data sources. So there's kind of two improvements that I want to note here. One, we've simplified this modal quite a bit, and two, we have also simplified the underlying architecture that supports these visualizations. And I'll explain what that means. So starting from the simplified modal, rather than having a list of all the tables that could be possible data sources for you, we've now consolidated that into a simple drop-down. So this lists all the tables that you can possibly build visualizations from within this panel. We've added a simple checkbox here that allows you to show or hide the data source for a particular viz. And then we've also included our lock selection option. We have a pretty extensive pop-up here that explains to you what the differences are between the two options, but I'll quickly go over those again. So if you choose selected positions, what we're going to do is remember the exact position in the table and always chart that. No matter if July 9th moves up in the rows or not, we're always going to take whatever this last row is and chart that metric for you. Selected items does the opposite. It looks at the item here of July 9th and it will always chart that, even if July 9th moves up in the table or is represented in a different row. So those are a quick overview of the different options here. So I'll leave this on selected positions. So the improvement in the architecture that I want to highlight is that in the past, when you locked a selection, we created a duplicate hidden table that stored that information for you. What this caused was a lot of confusion and a really long list here of data sources to pick from. So rather than creating a duplicate hidden table, we've redone how our data sources work, and they now point to the table that you created the visualization from. So here I've added a summary number for orders, and I've locked it to the table that I created it from. When I click this, I'll be able to see grayed out in the source table exactly where this information is coming from. So what this also means now is you can add in lots of different visualizations and source them from the same table. So if I wanted to add a summary number for revenue, I could do that by simply dragging over another summary number and locking it to a different cell within the table. So you can see this one is sourced from this cell. If I go back to my original one, it's sourced from this other cell within the table. And both can hide the data source if you'd like, and they will both be reflected in the same way. So we're hoping this architectural update will make everybody's lives easier when they're adding visualizations in, and make it a lot easier and simpler to manage the data sources that you have at your disposal. So you may be wondering what this long bit of text is at the bottom here. And it's really to handle almost an edge case. So I wanted to highlight that quickly. And I'll use a products table to demonstrate why that text is needed. So if I wanted to add a chart here for our top products, let's say a horizontal bar chart, and I wanted to lock my selection to these 5 specific items. So the text will apply only when you do selected items and when you change what's represented in the table. So I've locked this selection to the top 5 products, which I can see in my table right now. What I can further do though is change this table to look at a completely different dimension. Let's say last touch channel. If I make that change, this graph isn't going to update because we've locked it to those 5 very specific product items that you had us remember. So when you go back to the graph here, this is where the text comes into play. It's saying you may have changed your source table to no longer represent what's graphed here. If you want to see what is being graphed, we can generate a new table for you so as not to disrupt your workflow and all that you've done within the table that it was originally built from. So we'll click Show Table, and this is just saying, hey, we're creating a new table for you that this visualization will be sourced from, and you can continue on in your workflow using that other table for whatever else you need. So I'll click OK here, and the table actually popped to the bottom here. So now you can see our top product table. I'll rename this one here to top channels since we changed it. Our chart here is sourced from the top products table. So all you need to do is relock your selection to this new table that was created, and you're good to go. So I wanted to highlight this. Again, this is more of an edge case if you want to be able to use one table and create lots of different charts from it. It really only applies when you do selected items and then you change the dimension within the table. Otherwise, you can, for the most part, ignore this text here altogether and just continue on in your regular workflow.